your breath to my soul. You know what I think, what I feel. Jesus, I adore you. To you, my Savior, I will sing. You know me through and through. You're the closest to my heart that one could be. And Jesus, I adore you. I love you with the deepest of my soul. I rest inside your arms, and I trust you to lead me on. I open my life to you. Open my life to you. Lord, I want to be pure. Jesus, your breath to my soul.
Loving Father and our God, who designs every day that passes, who has chosen that these minds gather here. And God, you love us so much as Moi University, and you open us up to good relationships with other institutions. We thank you for Indianapolis. Loving Father, for all of us who have gathered here, like Solomon, we ask for wisdom from above. We ask for good health, oh Lord. And my Father, shower us as a university and as a nation with the peace, care, and love. Going to the end. We pray for the presenters and we pray for the well-wishers. It's in the name of Jesus Christ that we pray and believe. Amen.
So we're pleased that he's going to chair the first session, which has 3 papers. But before he chairs, he'll give us a small brief about university, Indiana University, and little information about our collaboration, to build up on what Professor Susan Sutton said yesterday. And then we'll have the 3 papers following each other. Today we know there's an important function in Everett, and that's why we don't expect a number of many people, because the head of state is within Everett. And there's a function which is taking place at 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, possibly all of us will give a silent to all Kenyans and other people who lost their lives in what happened last year. It's a session.
And I'll also say something about IUPUI's involvement as co-sponsor of this important event. It was in October last year that I met with Dean Chevy and Vincent Mutai of the Moi University Law School, and then later with the Vice Chancellor and also the Deputy Vice Chancellor, to talk about the idea of hosting such a symposium as a joint venture between IUPUI and Moi University. And we were very excited when the Vice Chancellor gave us the green light to proceed with planning. Now, as Susan Sutton said yesterday, this whole initiative followed a very substantial meeting in Indianapolis of Kenyans in diaspora, as well as friends of Kenya, who were very concerned about what was happening and who really wanted to express their solidarity and to work towards doing something for the betterment of the country. These were enormous meetings that we had in Indianapolis. And so from that point on, back in October, 2 planning groups were convened. There was the major one here, led by Professor Vincent Mutai, and also a shadow planning group in Indianapolis. And some members of that planning team are here this morning, and we should introduce you. Dave Ford, who's the Executive Director of the Center for Social Progress, and Dixon Putnam, who was the former Chair of Anthropology. We have Professor Naomi Mutea, who who you all remember as the first nurse at Moi University in 1985, the first member of the medical establishment here at Moi University. And who have I missed out here? There was a lot of people here yesterday. We have Yunus Kamara here. We have Rick Vine from Geography, who will know he spent a semester here last year. Jane Mokaya. But then we have a whole host of other people that were involved in our committee to express their regrets, none the least being the Vice-Chancellor's brother, his older brother, who lives in Indianapolis. Where do you live? He's younger? Sorry? I think the US has been a bit hard on him. He's already on the fray around the edges. Younger, yes. Who gives his regrets that we made today. But there's also many other Kenyans on our planning committee, and I wanted to mention their names. There's Nelly Tukong, Mercy Shikemi, was part of that, Rachel Aquare, Michael Owino, who if you're involved in AMPATH, you'll know Michael, and many others. It was quite a, for us in Indianapolis, this conference represents the culmination of a sort of a 6 months process of discussing issues related to Kenya. We had our Kenyan colleagues introduce many topics for discussion on a whole wide range of issues, from the church, the economy, colonialism, the legacy of the British era, and the ongoing issues from that period. One very interesting session, well actually more than one, will be the topic of the Vice-Chancellor's talk, the role of the university in the reconciliation process, and we're really looking forward to that. And we would hold these meetings every 2 to 3 weeks. And so for us, this is a very exciting culmination. Now, I think that's enough from me. So I wanted to go straight now to introducing our first speaker. And this is Mr. Wesley Chevy from the North Rift Peace Network, of which I've heard much and very impressed with your work. I'm really looking forward to hearing more.
So thank you so much, Chairman. I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and unfortunately I did not have any paper at the end of it all because I was given a very short notice, but then I'll attempt to do that maybe later on. As my friend is trying to set up the presentation, just an introduction. I work for UNDP right now, a project between UNDP and the government of Kenya. And I'm district coordinator of a peace program in Washington issue. Then it's just on a short contract, but for a long time I've been the chairman of Peace Network, North Rift and vice chairman nationally. It's a network that brings together over 300 peace resource organizations countrywide. And so what I'm going to be talking here is not about theory, it's about the practice of peace building. And so the topic here is that the role of PeaceNet in providing a regional coordinated peace, infrastructure or approach. And this is especially following the aftermath of the post-election violence. So let's go. Now, I'll be talking about, you've seen there some other acronym, NORPEC. NORPEC is a consortium that we formed after this problem last year. The reason being that not everybody is a member of PeaceNet. And so we try to bring other organizations that are not necessarily members of PeaceNet and crafted the word NORPEC as North Rift Peace Consortium. So that's why you see the two acronyms, PeaceNet and NORPEC. At the time when we began in February last year, we had the following organizations involved, and a number of them, but these are the key ones: NCCK, YMCA, Rural Women Peace Link, KESOFO, a sporting organization that is doing a lot of work in this region, using the medium of sport for social mobilization and social dissemination, as well as an environment development organization, and the Catholic Church. So the preamble, these are the collateral damage. We looked at, we were trying to understand why was this thing happening, and we picked this word from Oklahoma. We know what happened in Oklahoma, just one individual bombing a whole building, and the papers described that problem as collateral damage because he could not find where to put his blame and anger, so he decided to do a lot of harm to many people. So in our region, therefore, collateral damage will translate into this. We have over 45,000, that could be a very small figure, but could be more than that, who are displaced in the district. Presently, we still have 2,100 IDPs languishing in the ASK showground. A lot of lives and livelihoods were destroyed. The social, public, and emotional support damaged. Mixed marriages severely affected. That's very true. And then vulnerable communities. We went to the showground and we saw very vulnerable people, especially disabled people, really struggling to cope with life at the ASK showground. And of course, children were socially and psychologically disturbed. To date, we still have a lot of children that are really going through a lot of problems. And so these remain the big challenges in the camps and among the displaced community and also the non-displaced community. So some of these things are elaborated here, which is that we say we want to go into peace and security, we want to look at issues of management, prevention, and resolution of the same conflicts. We looked at also political governance and democracy, because again, it has to go back to that. And some of these things could actually long-term, but also short-term interventions. Because political governance is a long-term thing, we need to look at it as a nation. And then the human development, including peace education, we looked at and said, we want to focus on educating, giving peace education towards young people so that they can learn how to deal with their problems constructively and not destructively. And the other one is enterprise development. This is very key. A lot of youth are very idle, and we need to do something around it. And then we looked at also enough regional infrastructure, the aspect of schools, health facilities, water and sanitation, and ICT. Yeah, and then what was the rationale of our initiative? The rationale was we wanted to address the apparent law and scatter the peace intervention, and that's the work of every network, to be able to provide what we call a regional, a peace-coordinated approach. And so at the time, everybody was coming from Nairobi, from the US, every country, I want to do this, I want to do this. We say, no, we need now to provide this framework so that we can all work through together. And so there was law and scattered peace intervention, reconciliation, return, reintegration, and the settlement process. We also wanted to address, at that particular moment, the recurring threats to peace, as was sent by the hardening of positions between ODM and P.L.O. As you know, last year, every time there was a problem at the top, there was also a problem on the ground here. So it was really very bad, and we were really at a loss. We didn't know how to approach it. There was also still continuing what we call gross violation of human rights, social injustice, and development. And so this initiative really was a product of wide-ranging and extensive consultations between all the partners. You know, most organizations are very hard to really consider coming together. And so the challenge was, how do we do this? So we really took a very long time. By the time we rolled out this program in March, we were taking about 3 weeks discussing and understanding some of the problems that we were going through. So, in our understanding, we wanted to, this process that we took, that process that came up with the Nordic, was we wanted to catalyze the improved cooperation and harmonization of peace efforts, enhance organizational opportunities, and more efficient and effective capacity building of partners. There are some of the churches never had any training in peace building, and some of them do not know some of the concepts of peace building, like conflict sensitivity. So we say these people are likely to really complicate matters for the entire region. So we say we are going to provide them training. So we worked with other partners and donor agencies, and we did a lot of trainings in our region. And also we wanted to prevent the duplication and provision of platform for sharing of experiences. I talk about duplication. There is a big problem today. You go to Burn Forest area, people in Nairobi want to come to Burn Forest, we in Eldoret and the regions here want to go to that particular place, and the problem is you use the same people. So we have gotten people now who have become professional workshop attendees because they are always being identified by the same people. And so we say, how can we address such a kind of problem? So we came up with that, and to be honest with you, we have made some progress, but not enough, because there are some people who go to donors, and some of the donor mandate is that we want you to go and work in Bad Forest, because it's been burning from 1992. Actually, Bad Forest is an area where PeaceNet was formed in 1992. I don't have time to talk about PeaceNet. But in 1992, there were so many organizations there, and so the donors said, man, we need to come out together. And so they had what they call Ethnic Clashes Network, which later on became the Peace Network. And as we talk right now, we are national, we are even going ahead right now, and we're going to form a regional, East and Central, and most likely Horn of Africa Peace Network, because we do not have a Peace Network, so that we can provide those platforms. But the other one is a platform for sharing of best practices. Because every time we have, for example, the report of the WAKI, or is it WAKI report? It was how many pages? 500, over 500 pages. It was not possible for anybody to read it and understand. So what we did was, with PeaceNet, we got some funding, put together a team of consultants. They came up with what you call the popular version, and we held workshops within this region, sharing about about the working course. And so we've been able to do a lot of things around it, including, for example, the Truth and Justice Commission. We had a group of consultants who looked at the bill afresh and worked with a team of parliamentarians, and we came up. Actually, what you see as the Truth and Justice Act, we did a lot of, in fact, 98% of what we contributed was adopted by Parliament. So we have done a lot in terms of providing that version there. Also facilitating the return of IDPs to their farms, and rehabilitation and integration of competence through a microcredit intervention. We have some organizations, and especially USA, working with some partner in Eldoret to teach young people on skills on business type of skills, so that one of the very key issues that came out of our quick research was that some of the young people were involved in these and destroyed some property because in the first place they said they never had anything to lose. So imagine if you invest in that particular person, he has something. So tomorrow you will not you'll have a second thought. You never go and touch these things. So the vision and purpose. Again, I say it's theory. We go from theory to practice. Our vision was to enhance sustainable peace and national healing and reconciliation with the purpose of facilitating sustainable return, reconstruction, and reintegration of displaced communities. That is very important. That's a process. Again, peace is not just a one-off event, it's a process. And so for us, that's how we looked at it. And with the specific objectives of strengthening capacities of local partners. The idea is that nearly every CPO right now has transformed itself in this particular region. They have a peace component. And so, if you have a peace component, you don't have the understanding, the mechanics, the skills, the knowledge. It will be very difficult for you to do it. I worked in this region myself, and one day we went to a place called Samburu, and I was working for NCCK on the Regional Peace Program, and we went to a team. We were not paying the elders some money. So, but there was a group that was paying them, a peace committee, a sitting allowance. And so when we went there was a lot of resistance. And so we said, look here, this is not the best practice. Because tomorrow you don't pay them, they don't come to the meeting. In any case, whose benefit is peace for? It is for you. But if you have to pay you to attend our meetings, when we just facilitate, that's really very wrong. The second objective is to carry out a regional specific research. We have research, and we can actually share with Moi University that we did. We commissioned nationally, and we have also regional specific research reports that we commissioned. And but then we still want to do a little bit more because we say we don't want to understand or assume we know the problem. Through that initiative, we now know what is the problem. The other one was to mitigate the effects of post-election violence within affected communities. We've done quite a lot with that, and promote and support formal and informal education. Yesterday, the USA is rolling out a national program to support all VCs. So we'll be linking up with those groups and finding out how we can be able to support these children. Now, I'm just about to finish. So the first objective, there are only 4 objectives and then the activities. The first was the capacities building. So the activities is that we want to train we trained members on peace building and conflict management. We have not reached everybody. There's still a gap on our side, but we intend to be able to go out to many areas. And we thought this is an area that Moi University can be able to take on, because in this particular region we do not have any institutions specialized enough to carry out peace education, and that's one of the challenges that I thought I was going to raise in this particular symposium, because we need to be able to react and really offer support to look at the gaps around us. Then the whole quarterly thematic reflection workshops, we've been able to do that. Very soon we want to do something about the Eldoret we want, and we'll be able to invite most of you to come in there, because this is a region that is really known for very good things, but also a bit negative things. Carry out mapping of peace resource partners. We have so many partners, not only in Western issue, but the entire Northwest, as a thing and good thing. And then establish peace committees. We are very happy that the government itself has given, it's a policy now, that every district must have a district peace committee. And so we are working with those to ensure that we have a sustained approach. Objective number 2, carry out regional specific research. So we want to enhance understanding of conflict and post-election violence dynamics, and organize dialogue sessions to address specific campaign issues arising from the research. So we've been able to do quite a number of that. Again, we still have challenges in terms of capacity. Funding is a major challenge on our side. And objective number 3, to mitigate the effects, I go to the outputs here to offer them psychosocial and counseling sessions. We are very happy that we are working with the regional and international organizations like IOM, which is doing a lot in terms of psychosocial support. And then the whole meditation workshops and dialogue sessions. To be honest, we've done a lot in this particular area. Everywhere we go, we do meditation workshops. We feel like we tell one guy talked to us and asked us, what is it, how do we deal with this problem? I say the first priority is dialogue, the second is dialogue, the third is dialogue. We need to sustain the dialogue opportunities in our region, because without that, it will be very difficult. Even if the police will be brought here by the government, unless the people discuss and agree, it will be very difficult. And then facilitate the settlement of internally displaced people. We've done quite a lot in that. The last objective is promote and support formal and informal education. Again, facilitate opportunities for alternative livelihoods. I talked about it initially, about especially the out of school. When you go to the small, what do you call, shopping centers, every evening from 4 to 5, you find a lot of young people working, talking there. They just talk and talk and talk, as if they are paid to talk. For me, I want them to really be engaged in productive activities. And so that's a challenge to all of us as a nation, not only in this particular region. That's why Mungiki has come in, because I guess one of the reasons is that because there are no employment opportunities, we need to look at that. And then carry out peace education schools. We have UNESCO, which has done a very good job. They have designed formulated a peace manual. And so the challenge has been funding again to reach out to schools. Now, the management, because again, it's about the practice. We say because we have many, we need to have a management infrastructure. So we came up with 3 organs. We have the Secretariat, we have the General Assembly, and then the Management Committee. And Secretariat is hosted at Kisofo premises somewhere in every town, and then is headed by a coordinator of PeaceNet. And the secretarial functions to do communication, documentation, promotional activities, and visibility. The other one is facilitating the development of different campaigns involving peace partners. We do a lot of things really in this particular region. Like for example, in the International Peace Day, we have a lot of displays and brought together all the children and youth from different communities, and maintaining links and building bridges between the peace partners and donor agencies. And then lastly, is taking lead in fundraising activities. And so we have that one as a main program now going on, and we see going on. This particular region, lack of long support, a very huge and glaring gap. We have the proliferation. We talk about proliferation of small arms, but now we talk about proliferation of NGOs and CPOs in the region. Very many indeed. When you call a meeting, it's like all of you here. It's more than the people in this particular room. So managing them is very difficult, and you have different mandates by donor agencies, and especially the churches sometimes. Managing expectations of free money and handouts by the youth. The youth just, whenever you go there, they tell you, you need money. We need money. Big challenge. You know, they just want, they say, you know, we know what we want to do. Give us money, I'll be able to go into business or something like that. Lack of institutional, to teach, an institution able to teach courses in conflict resolution. And I think I'm coming back to what I challenged Moi University to be able to produce. I was privileged to serve in this university as a part-time lecturer in the Department of Government and Public Administration. And I remember I participated, I shared with the chairman of the department the need to introduce certain courses there, in fact, like public sector reforms, security sector reforms. And I think you have the Center for Refugee Studies, which can actually be transformed to offer these courses. And I remember P.L.O was sharing a lot in terms of introducing courses in this particular region. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of people who need to be trained. People like representation from business and Norway. Thank you so much.
There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of our session. Just a quick note on some of the points that Wesley Chevy raised. As you said, dialogue. That's the only avenue, possible avenue for positive change and improving the relationship between people in dispute. The focus of your work, getting people back on their feet, such a priority. Then we can deal with unfinished business. Getting them, back on their feet is such a priority. You mentioned donor support and the proliferation of NGOs, and I guess you're familiar with I read it in the Kenyan newspaper that President Obama had pledged $1.5 million to Kenyan NGOs working on peace and reconciliation. And your comment about proliferation of NGOs is a very important one, because that amount of money can do nothing unless these NGOs are going to come together to avoid the duplication that you talk about. And so I'm very, very impressed with the work you're doing, and I'm hoping you can get a good share of that pie. So now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Vice Chancellor Mr. Membe, talk on the role of the university.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I recognize also the presence of the Chancellor of Moi University, who is with us here, and the Vice President of Indiana University, Professor Susan Sato, our Vice Chair of Council, Valeria Namo, and also the administrative members of management. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very happy with the presentations of course, Mr. Chief, and really, let me tell you that, let assure you that Moi University actually will do something with collaborating with you in what you are doing. This is also my second time to present a paper in front of the Chancellor. The first time was when I presented a paper on water rising. That was in Kisumu. That was a different one. But now this is not science, but maybe this is a little more of social science. To begin with, I think the introduction also. This paper came as a result of what happened during after the announcements of the elections, of the presidential elections of 2007. And at that time, could you please, maybe it's not ready yet. So at that time, after the announcements of the presidential elections, of course you know, there was an outburst of anger. And, it was almost simultaneous. You could not say that it really was just blindsided, like people say. What I saw was something, it was like an outburst. And this outburst made us to be helpless in a lot of ways. And that helplessness actually almost paralyzed every activity in this country, including myself, who was held up in a house, in Eldoret. My driver was in Bomet. My security man was in Bomet. There was no watchman who could even do anything much to stop anybody from coming to the house. And then here I was with my parents, who are very old. My father is on wheelchair, so he cannot run. And so here I was, and then we used the food that we had in the house, and then there was only beans and rice and coffee and sugar. So that's all we had in the house. When all that was supposed to come out, I now began to see what I could do. Because I had to feed my parents, and there was no fresh vegetables anywhere. I could not get milk. The university was also in a mess, and I could not come to the main campus because we could not use a car. More so, a government vehicle could not be used at that time. It was not possible. It would be banned all the way. And so it was really difficult to do anything like that. So what we did then was that, of course, you know very well that after this announcement, we had the international community, the local community, urging our leaders in government to do something about the problem that we have. After so much persuasion from the international community, nothing seemed to have been happening. So, it was then necessary to have a panel of experts, of women and persons, led by Kofi Annan, actually organized by the African Union, with the support of the United Nations, the European Union, and the US government, to start some negotiations into the stalemate, and to make our leaders agree on the way forward. So, when that was happening, chaos was still going on nationally. As negotiations in Nairobi were taking place, transportation was paralyzed, more so in this region. There were no commercial activities taking place in this region and other regions. Educational institutions were not taking place anywhere in this part of the country. Farming had stopped. Tea picking could not take place. Milk could not be delivered in any of the facilities that are here. The health services were almost paralyzed. So then, we had to do something on this issue. So I remember coming out of my house, then, because I could not have my car, I just used whatever I could get. I would go to a place like Etire, which was about, center of violence. Then I would order some boiled meat and organic in one of the shops and mingle with people there. Then I would listen and eat, and I would go away, come back again, have some tea, maybe have some tea, and so that I could also listen to what was going on. And at the same time, also monitoring what was happening at the main campus, because this was a place I could not get to. So somehow, after getting to know that there were some people who had come all the way from with donkeys, from as far as Kapsabet and beyond, to collect maize that was in our farm. And that's when I realized that these things were very bad, very, very bad. And we organized some meetings with the community people here, and to see what we could do. But then, as we were organizing these meetings, there was this commission called somebody else came with the curricular commission, the most mentioned at some stage. The curricular commission came in, I don't know whether we are there, came in to check to see whether what Kenya was going through was it really because of the results of the presidential elections alone, or were there some other underlying factors that would have caused these outbursts? So, the Curricular Commission, which inquired into the causes of the post-election violence, reported that the poorly managed or bungled presidential election appeared not to have been the only cause of the violence. It reported that there were other underlying causes. It recommended that it would be necessary to address the root causes of the conflict, as well as enabling factors, in order to create a context for developing structures for lasting reconciliatory processes that rely on inclusive, participatory, transparent, and accountable governance systems. So they identified 4 actual factors that would have contributed to the violence. One was wealth distribution. It was noted that there is a strong perception that ethnic attitudes towards wealth distribution plays. Thank you so much. I think I'm being reminded that we need to observe the 1 minute silence. So I think it's best that we all stand. Unfortunately, we have wished to participate in the event that is taking place now at Yamba. But somehow, when we made this program, we didn't know that there will be such a national function also. So our apology on this side, because we know that this event will take place. Otherwise, we would have either done it after or way so that we could also be part of this, because this happened in our area and we are concerned about what happened, and some of us actually saw the bodies that were being taken to the hospital after the whole thing erupted. So we were talking about 4 factors that were identified by the Curricular Commission, and that was wealth distribution, which of course really is one of the key ones. It was noted that there is a strong perception that ethnic attitude towards wealth distribution plays a big role in the prospects for personal career advancement and well-being. In other words, there is general expectation that members of a person's ethnic group will be more supportive in any respect than just anyone. This is demonstrated by the common practice among politicians who are known to reserve the best positions in the public service, or to allocate more resources to address the areas occupied by persons of the ethnic origin. This is not my own, this is what was found. Okay, then another one is ethnic exclusion. Over there. An equally negative consequence of this attitude is ethnic exclusion at all levels in the distribution of resources, which results in regional disparities in the allocation of resources, wealth, and employment opportunities. This attitude contributes to a large extent to the high expectations in the election outcomes, and consequently to the few over the vote or regular election defeat. This "we win, we take over" attitude is a major driver behind the fragile coalition government. It is also perhaps the single most important factor behind this fragile structure of our political parties. Then, the third item is poverty. Of course, we all know that, because our visitors don't know, that more than half of Kenya's population earn less than $1 a day. And some earn nothing, not a single penny a day. And these are people who are supposed to feed their families, who are supposed to clothe themselves, and do many other things that any normal human being should be able to do. So we have that problem. And this problem is still there. And if nothing is done, it is going to increase from what it is now. Then there's the fourth one is unemployment. We know several millions of Kenyans are unemployed. We have university graduates coming out every year. With the total number of universities we have now, about 10,000 students graduate a year. And leave alone those ones who are coming out of colleges, polytechnics, and so forth. So these people continue coming out, and they have nothing to do. So since they have nothing to do, they are actually available for anybody who can give them something to do, because they have the right and they have the time. So there is this saying, which says, if you give people nothing to create, they are sure that they will create trouble. All right? So if you don't give them anything meaningful, of course trouble is there. It will come because they are just there. You know. So really, the factors that we mentioned, that is unemployment, poverty, ethnic exclusion, and so forth. If we don't address these issues between now and the next general election, we don't have the mind to expect. But a little more talk. But I think if we handle these problems, then we'll be able to do something about these problems. So now, what can we do to reduce these negative attitudes, poverty, unemployment, and so forth? I think one thing that we can do to reduce the likelihood of politically instigated violence that actually is still potentially there is to have some way in which we can find some ways of reconciling. Reconciliation is really necessary. And reconciliation is essential to the building of sustainable peace for now and in the future. I know the group that is in is also dealing with this reconciliation. This must be done. And of course, we must accept that something wrong has happened. You cannot reconcile if you don't accept that there is one person has caused a problem or whatever. We must all speak to each other and understand and realize that we have gone, something has happened, and we are all in a mess. So the basis of reconciliation, of course, we like to consider aspects that will enable us to have sustainable development. And one of them is empowerment, cooperation, equity, sustainability, and security. once we address all these issues, or those factors, I think we have a chance to actually minimize any opportunities or chaos or eliminate them altogether. So now, having mentioned all these, all the things that happened, what do the universities, or what did the university do? And what did the university do during that time? Of course, we know that the universities, their role is to actually provide education so that people can have the skills that will meet the needs of the country, contribute towards national development. We also do research, and in doing research, we come up with innovations, and those innovations also should be able to lead to employment opportunities. So these employment opportunities that will come in from the universities will help address some of the problems that we are facing. Moi University, actually, if you look at we read the papers yesterday, Moi University, among other universities, plays key role in transforming the society. We are the largest employer in North Rift, maybe in the entire Rift Valley. And we enable families to meet their needs, educate their children, and pay taxes to the government. So, one thing which Moi University has done, besides having jobs for the people around here, and also ourselves, is the creation of the Rivertex factory, a facility we have here. This textile factory, not only, I think now we should see give us the slides. Not only is it giving employment, but it's also providing technical skills to our students. Yeah. It's not there. It should be there. No, it should be where I am. We are going back, but we should be going. So that is photograph there is showing the storeroom where we receive cotton and Rivertex. That is our factory. The storeroom is bigger than, about 4 times bigger than this particular. This one is not pointing. So indeed. So I was just to show. You get it back. Yeah. This is the storeroom where we receive the cotton. And you can see the room is almost empty. On your right, you can see from about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, heaps of bales of, bales of cotton. That is about 5 tons. Each of those, each column is about 1 ton. So there's a total of 5 tons there. The whole room can take 300 tons. 300 tons can be accommodated there. But we only have 5 tons. What you see on the far left is silk. That is silk that is used for also for making of clothes. That silk came from China. And we are saying, if Kenyans can be actually engaged in silk production, we don't have to import silk from China. If Kenyans can produce cotton, we will be feeding that loop, because one day a Rivertex consumes 20 tons of cotton. 20 tons of cotton. And what you are seeing there is just 5 tons. So now it's not enough. So what is happening now is we are buying cotton from Tanzania. Tanzania produces 700,000 bales a year. And Kenya only produces 70,000 bales. Liversex uses much more than that, the total that is produced in the country. So it shows that there is a big opportunity here to have employment for Kenyans. The textile industry alone in India employs 35 million people. 35 million employed in India by the textile industry. That is more than the Kenyan population. Next. So there is tremendous opportunity. Not only, do we provide employment, we also, by growing cotton, it enables us also to have, let's say, in areas like the Great Valley, where the Pokots and the Marakwets and the Turkanas are fighting. So what we have done there is we have gone down there and we have said, instead of using arrows and bows, use the hoe and the cutting it, and so that you can grow cotton. And when you grow cotton, we buy the cotton from you. You get the money, you send your child, your children to school. And that's from Yama, from South Nyanza, but we have exhausted everything that is in this country. There's nothing anymore. So, can we see Yama? So these are, we have our young men and old men busy learning skills using this facility. Next, I know my time is out, so let me just that is the weaving section, which is producing clothes. That section is running 24 hours now. So we have that section running. This is the only section that runs for 24 hours. And we like all other sections to run for 24 hours. Once we get the raw materials, once we get about 300 tons of cotton, maybe a month, that will be, we will be able to run all other facilities, all other sections, farmers and the transporters. If you combine all that, you are talking about maybe 30,000 people, 30,000 people in one opportunity that are good. So, can we see the next one? So, that is the showroom, okay, which is showing what we are producing. And the idea here is that Moi University has got campuses in several parts of this country. We are almost in every province of Kenya. And in each of these campuses that we have, what we want to do to contribute towards creating employment for Kenyans is to offer some tailoring courses, let's say in Karatina, Kitui, Mombasa, Rongo, Kitale, Narok, Kericho, and so forth. So the idea is to offer some training for the young people who cannot go beyond standard 8 or even so that they can have some tailoring skills to produce clothes that can be sold. And in that way, we are able to have the young ones engaged in protective activities. Because violence is not restricted to this area. In the chemistry laboratory, which we are doing the extraction and also mixing chemicals. So the next, I think we want that is still part of the facility that is there. I want now to go to the School of Public Health. I think because of time, let's go to the School of Medicine, the School of Public Health. What did we do during the violence? The School of Public Health, when IDP comes, we sent them there. They mixed with the people that in those camps. Let me show us the one of the some of the camps. They mixed with the people there, helped the children, to play around, and also they were counseled of them. so that at least there will be something. So that's what the university did. During the chaos, we did that. We enabled, the camps to at least to have life go on. And that's what we did with the School of Public Health. We were accountable people. And actually, what made us go there is because there was a lady who came. She came to my, and you show us one of the tanks, okay? One of those tanks. You can see a small, at the top there, these are now IDP camps. So if you see a small tank to the left there, that is something which is not even the distance of between where, Brasile and East. It's about 5 maybe, a small thing. And a lady came, a woman came to my office one time. And by the way, at that time I was probably the only one who was coming. She came and said, here we are 5. Myself, my husband, my daughter who is 18 years old, my 2 other daughters who are 12 and 11. We are in this small thing alone, 5 of us. No privacy, and there's no dignity. She told me she has seen people come in as pastors and wives. Within no time, those families are breaking up because in a tent like that, small one like that, you have this family of 5. In a tent which is next to that one, you have one lady who is alone. Single, mature. This man who is married is complaining. The wife is complaining in the tent. The children are complaining in the tent. The other lady who is on the other side is not complaining. So now, you find now somebody moving into the next tent. And that is not his house. So I said, okay, what do you want us to do? Then she said, okay, what you do is allow, you open up the university, allow my daughter to come back to campus. Yeah. And you go to all other places. At that time, I remember asking Wasu, can you go to Nakuru? Can you go to Busia? Can we, I think I was able to go to these camps to fish out those, students who are university students who are in these camps. Let's go and fish them out, bring them back. They are better off at the campus than in those camps. And that is the effort we made. We did. We did not sit here when trouble was going on. We did everything possible to ensure that Kenyans who are admitted got an opportunity to enjoy life. No, you stop me when it's time because I've taken much more than I should have. So the School of Medicine, what the School of Medicine, I'm giving one of you. What the School of Medicine did and what we enabled them to do was to, have them offer medical services to the victims. Some people were being brought, having been cut with campus. And I remember going to the guest house where we host international students. We had some students from Holland. And when I saw the bodies put in a pickup, they were actually black now because they had been burned beyond recognition and they were just black. But I was just around the School of Medicine there, and I saw these people being transported to the mortuary. And I realized that there were really problems. So the School of Medicine, people there worked tirelessly. There were hundreds of patients coming in throughout. Our medical staff, they were not sleeping. The nurses were not sleeping. Those ones who could come to their but of course many could not manage to come. And the only way to manage to come to the hospital was to wear the kind of medical uniform. Yeah? Because you could not go just as a civilian. You would be stopped on the way, but then they had to wear this so that they could go through. Okay, can we see another one? I think my time is up. So really, what I'm saying is that we also offer counseling services. Not only did we treat the patient or provide entertainment, we also offer counseling services. But the biggest challenges we had when we were doing the counseling was that here you have somebody, you want to counsel them, and they say, no, I don't want so and so to counsel me. You know, they betrayed me. You know, that group betrayed me when I was in trouble. So now we have to now see what can we do, because here is a situation whereby you have people who are affected. We are all from different ethnic backgrounds, but at the same time, people have got this feeling that it was so and so's, you know, group that killed my daughter. It was so and so, you know, group that did this. So now it was a really tough. But we tried the best we could do, and we counseled as much as possible. We made sure that where there was a need to have a counselor from outside the university setup, we did so for the sake of the people who were actually unhappy with some who they told this belongs to this group. So, you know. So when also you go to the hospital, it's like, you know, some situations also happen. Is it the nurse? Is it, who is going to treat me? You know, there were some issues, but we overcame all that with all the efforts from me. So actually what I'm saying is, I think in conclusion, we must do something about, we cannot go back to where we were. The initiative of promoting a dialogue, joint programs and activities with the local communities are expected to enhance peace and coexistence. Universities have great potential to create knowledge, products and services, which will provide jobs and wealth. These activities should lower levels of poverty and unemployment, while increasing wealth and employment opportunities by commercializing innovations and patents for further development. That normally sells for 55 shillings, which is way below $1, was going for 139 shillings, which is about 140 shillings. That's about $2, more than $2. So at that time, I realized the mamas in the village are crying, and here the professors are also complaining. So now, who will do something now? Can we welcome Patrick Lumumba, please? They are coming in. These are the well-known Kenyans, and they will be addressing us very shortly. So, Professor Seka, please welcome. Lumumba, please, most welcome. P.L.O. most welcome. I was just closing by saying that Moi University will do much more than it was already done. Because when I saw last year that, when I did this year, that people, every one of us is complaining about the price of unga being, beyond, reachable price. Our maize here, we produce about 3,000 bags of maize a year. I mean, chocolate canvas, main canvas, we produce about 4,000 bags of maize. And so what we have done now is we have introduced, we have said, now we are not going to complain and be helpless as the mama in the village. We are a university. We have to make a difference. And so what we are doing now, we are producing, we are actually we are installing machines now. Chocolate now, we have 2 machines. We have a maize mill that is being installed in chocolate campus. It should be in operation by the end of this month. And that one now will produce and package maize flour that we will sell to our starting students and the global community at a price that is affordable. They can even take it on credit, and then they pay at the end of the month. So that is what we are doing at the main campus and at the Chipulin campus. We are not going to be helpless when we have opportunities to make Kenya a better place. We are determined to change. And that change will have to come from you and me. It has to come from you and me. It's not going to be you and me. It has to come. And these are things which are happening. After the maize thing has been processed, we have the fruits in the valley. The Kejo Valley is producing a lot of fruits and vegetables. Those are going to waste. We also need to package those fruits and vegetables, make them into fruit juices, package them, sell them to other places, and make money, and make Kenya a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Yes, eradicating poverty and unemployment, and you gave a wonderful example of the Rivertex factory. This is at the very heart of the education system and of building a reconciled nation. But so is ending ethnic exclusion, another problem area that you raised. And you gave some wonderful examples there of the work of the School of Public Health and of Medicine, and of bringing back people from the IDP camps to the university. A wonderful example. And yesterday I heard about how Moi University was embarking upon the teaching of tolerance. And I know if you had more time, I'm sure you would have raised that area. And of course, as someone who teaches truth and reconciliation, tolerance is not a word that I like. This is the word that they use in Israel, and it really means, I hate you, but I'm not going to do anything about it. So, really, you need a better word. The word integration was raised yesterday. Integration is also problematic because it implies a loss of cultural identity. Whereas what we're really aiming for with reconciliation is celebration of difference. And I heard some very encouraging words from you today, and also from the Chancellor yesterday, which gives us a lot of hope for the future. Now I'd like to introduce our last speaker. This is Professor Asika from Indiana University. Welcome.
The Chancellor of Moi University, the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, all the senior officers of the university, and those from the sister university in Indiana, and invited guests, all protocol observed. It is indeed my pleasure to be invited here to be able to give a keynote address on this very theme that is very critical to our nation towards Kenyan national dialogue, healing and reconciliation, reform issues in a modern African state. And my address is entitled, Interrogating Kenya's Political Instability, Redefining the Role of Scholars and Leaders in Harnessing Different Forms of Capital in Constructing a New Politics of Culture and Identity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as I begin my discussion, I will begin on a provocative note. And my address in this paper, in essence, interrogates, problematizes, and historicizes the themes of this symposium. And of course, we are going to open up additional vistas of dialogue and debate. The highlights emanating from these engagements should be of concern to the government, academics, members of civil society groups, and the general public as very key stakeholders in the reform process in our country. And the above themes, therefore, which you have listed out, I think there are 8, they are germane to the reform initiatives and programmatic innovations, since they were pivotal to the issues and political demands that were thrust into the limelight by the jolting events that unfolded after the December 2007 general elections. And I dare say that really leadership in this country is a problem. And leadership is one of the elements that I see as a very critical issue that should be addressed and a very high premium placed on it. Because anybody that has money passes for a leader, simply because the Kenyan society has not put a high premium on leadership. And therefore, leadership being one of the elements in a set of themes that are being addressed in this symposium, I dare say that developing proper leadership competencies will enable our leaders to prepare their leadership transitions, cultivate features of societal and organizational activity, and be able to foster what I consider to be mechanisms of effective management of conflicts. In my view, leadership is an opportunity to exercise moral responsibility. And that's a question that really we need to pose. How many of our leaders consider the prerogatives and opportunities they have been given as an opportunity to exercise responsibility and good leadership, therefore, for that matter? It has an ethical motive, in my view. What are the setbacks that we see in the post-election environment? In my view, the post-election crisis constituted a fundamental snapping point in Kenya's project of democratization in many ways. And this was so since both nationals and outsiders, some of whom had great hope in Kenya, were shocked by the spectacle of a country once believed to be stable disintegrating into the discomfiture of anarchy to unprecedented levels in the electoral history of this nation. And the feverish interventions by members of the international community reflected a plethora of mixed reactions characterized by panic and anxiety, as well as concern that consultation and mobilization of intermediation forces should be undertaken in order to urgently save Kenya from an imminent ignominious collapse. And therefore, a collapse of Kenya will generate what can be seen to be a deleterious domino effect on the economies and projects of democratization in the entire East African region. Yet, as pertinent as these interventions were, hardly can anyone say that Kenyan leaders have gathered any worthwhile lessons from this macabre event, looking at the character of politics that have been prevalent in the country ever since. And one can enumerate a number of political machinations that exhibit sheer narrow self-centered interests that are entrenched in a political culture of kleptocracy and clientelism with no sense of social accountability. It has become necessary to historicize and interrogate our institutions and those leaders who have been given the mandate to run them in an attempt to explain why things snapped in the way they did. There's need to historicize leadership because leaders develop within cultural and historical settings. And it is important to appreciate leadership as a cause agent for social change. So one may begin to address the whole question of the role of institutions in national reconciliation and cohesion. And among the numerous tasks of our post-colonial governments such as ours, it is to consolidate peace, stability, promote national integration, transformation and reconciliation for purposes of constructing an enabling environment for economic development and democratic governance. And the immediate challenges to peace building and reconciliation emanate from attempts at national building that have no philosophical or ethical foundation of nationhood. They'll come out with what we call, of course, Vision 2030, with three fundamental pillars: the social, the cultural, and the political. And the pillars are hanging when they need to be anchored in a very firm foundation, what I consider to be an ethical, philosophical, and moral foundation. Who is going to do that? Unless scholars discover their role in social transformation and contribute towards the formulation of that kind of foundation. In the absence of such a foundation, in which all pillars of national construction and economic growth are supposed to be anchored, all sorts of seeds of political and economic malfeasance and impunity are sown and are allowed to grow to destructive levels. The entire edifice of national leadership is supposed to be anchored on a clearly defined ethical and philosophical foundation from which citizens derive the political outlook and national character. And intellectuals are a strategically distinct community with high levels of intellectual and creative capital concentration who should not remain stuck in a despicable ivory tower mentality. We had better come out of that tower. They should emerge as individuals and as an epistemic group of interventionists and builders of alternative systems who will participate in the creation of their perceived alternative social reality on the basis of their profuse creative and intellectual capital. Remember, at one time in 1993, I came out with a demand which was very loud that KANU did not know how to utilize intellectual capital. I have many things that I will say, but the paper should be made accessible to those who want to read the details. But then, in conclusion, given that I've seen the signal and I like being obedient, the identity formation process in this country needs to be well anchored. And I'm saying it needs to be driven not by political demagogues. It needs to be driven by leaders who are statesmen, are people who are morally accountable. And I want to emphasize moral accountability, because where there's no moral obligation, there can be no moral integrity. And if you have no moral integrity, you can forget about having moral authority. And where there's a crisis of moral authority, there's a crisis of legitimacy. And I think that kind of describes very well the kind of impasse in which we are. And we have to rise up with various levels of intellectual and creative capital and mobilize the available social capital to begin to reconfigure this nation if we are to save this nation from imminent collapse, so that it can acquire a very dubious distinction of a failed state. We can separate from being a failed state. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Sam, for those very powerful words on the importance of developing leadership competencies in Kenya. Now, I'm the chairperson here, but I'm also Asian provocateur. I just want to introduce one comment before we throw it open for questions. Professor, this person said that in reality today the social contract is, and this is eat and let eat. Now, we all laughed, but that is a profoundly disturbing concept, and and it's only transformational leaders that are going to move us towards the development of a social contract that really does unite all Kenyans as one. Thank you. So now I'd like to throw it open to questions. Comment on that.
My name is Dr. Kumabigamo, and I want to take it from where my brother, Professor Seka, has stopped. I appreciate your presence, and my brother P.L.O. Lumumba, when we were being mentored by our Chancellor, then we were talking and asking the questions that Professor Seka is asking now. And I've listened to you here and elsewhere, and I've also been listened to here and elsewhere. And the question is, we are interested in leaders with a moral authority. Do we have to come up with universities or institutions to train these people? And on our leadership, our national leadership, does not have room for dialogue that will be able to integrate some of these views, some of these thoughts, and this type of leaders? Or for how long are we going to talk and continue talking and end up without the right result?
I worked in Moi University for 22 years, and I started as a nurse in the health services, and then I was later on employed to work to teach at the Faculty of Medicine, then now School of Medicine. I teach in the Department of Nursing Sciences, but currently I am a runner at Indiana University, following the post-election violence. My question is very basic, and it is directed to, it is based on Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and it is directed to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Lumumba. While we all recognize your efforts surely to respond to the post-election violence activities that take place, we all respect your practical approach to it, and we all recognize and acknowledge the politics of exclusion politics and equal distribution of resources, and we need to eradicate, of course, those kind of things. But I have, having worked here for 22 years, I've interacted with the community around and I've visited their own certain gates. They have eaten in my house, I've lived with them as one of them. But my question is, when the post-election violence occurred, one day when I was way back in my home village, I listened to the radio and heard that lecturers in Moi University were engaged in funding and recording and doing all the activities. I mean, they participated somehow in one way or another in the violent activities. Now,
I looked at the mission, and I see what they're doing, which is very noble and very, very good for the people who are suffering. My question is, where does the PeaceNet activities reach the high authority in the government? Because you're dealing with the local communities and you're helping, yes. But how are you ensuring that nothing else is happening to create more trouble for you to continue helping people who could help themselves?
I think the question came from Naomi. Yes. Actually, what it is that during the counseling session, we realized that some members of our staff offended others directly. And I remember there was a case whereby one person said that we were just sitting in the room. Then they were doing something on the computer or something like that. As soon as the election thing was announced, the two colleagues actually found themselves to be enemies. Instantly. It was just something announced last day. So some of these things, where we have identified the source of the problem, we address that person and also ask that person to actually apologize and find a way of really reconciling.
Social contract, whereby I think it's very important for us to go back to the principles of the consent of the government. And it is us citizens who abuse that by failing to elect people whom we consider to be competent to be able to deliver. So we need a serious program of civic education whereby citizens in this country understand what their role as citizens is, so that they can rise up and contribute to the mobilization of the right kind of leadership in this country. And so in this case, what are the obligations, the issues which should be part of the contract that we need to load our leaders with? Of course, God-centeredness. You can't have integrity, moral and ethical discipline if you are not God-centered. And our very national anthem starts by saying, "O God of all creation." It means therefore we have to put a premium on God-centered leadership.
Before we go to our health break, I want to hand over to the BBC Mushatemi for an answer.
Let's give a big applause to the chair of the session. For your chairing, very effective chairing, and we're really on time. And for these three speakers, they have done us proud. They have given very good presentations, and we really want to thank all the three, our Vice Chancellor, who gave for the second presentation. The first one was by Mr. Wesley Chichiri, and then Professor Erika Seka. As I told you yesterday, there are big things coming today, and you've seen the big things. And bigger things are still coming after the tea break. So the announcement is this. First, before the announcement, let's give a big applause to the three presenters, please. A big applause, please. And inside by our the PS, that one thing is a map. That map makes us as one country of Kenya. And from there, there's a map of Kenya here, which is also a parent holder for him, for the work he's doing, which is covering the entire country. Thank you very much, and thank you, our Vice Chancellor, for that. So, big applause.
Let your glory fall. We are thirsty, Lord. We're thirsty. Hear us as we call. Fill us now. Let your glory fall.
Okay, I think we have a seat, please. And welcome to this session, colleagues. It's now my humble duty to introduce the chairman for this session, who is Professor Samuel Gudu, the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Planning and Development. Let's welcome the chairman, please. So, Professor Gudu will chair this session, and we'll try to be on time as much as possible. And just one announcement is that the community groups brought their artifacts for display exhibition actually in the exhibition hall. At the same time, they are selling those artifacts. Kindly let's boost the community by buying those artifacts. They should not go away with them. Let them go away with the money in the pockets and leave everything here and carry away with us, please. We'll be supporting the community initiative. Professor Gudu, most welcome. This is your session, please.
To the Chancellor of Moi University, the Vice Chair of Moi University Council, distinguished guests, I see the Honorary Treasurer, Professor Asek. I'm trying to address the Vice Chair of Indiana University, Professor Sutton. And of course, P.L.O. I will introduce just briefly before I... Now, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, when I was coming up through my secondary school, I was made to understand that science was one of the greatest areas that we were supposed to concentrate on. Then I lost the whole area of social sciences, and today when Professor Aseka talked, I felt like I should now go and register as first degree in the School of Art and Social Sciences. Mine is to introduce the keynote speaker again, Dr. Patrick Lumumba Otieno. When I just started working briefly at the University of Nairobi, he was a student, and to me, he was one of the students who was bringing trouble. So he would want to teach, and the students are going to strike. That was part of P.L.O. and today we are going to chance to see him. We have also known Patrick Lumumba Otieno, Dr. Patrick Lumumba Otieno, as some of us call him an activist, a human rights, civil rights activist. Sometimes we know him as one of the cornerstone for people who want for the Bomas Constitution, which we are still evaluating as Kenyans. P.L.O, we enjoy again what you do, moving masses in the TV, and we have seen you answer questions and give Kenyans a chance to teach each other. P.L.O, we know him as an excellent lawyer. Sometimes he interprets what sometimes ordinary people like you and me read and may not understand the legal jargon. P.L.O is an educationist. And sometimes, of course, we know P.L.O as a politician. But above all, today, Dr. Patrick Lumumba Otieno is giving us a very, very important lecture. P.L.O, I don't want to even to take the title away from you. You are the one who come and tell us the title of your speech, and we are all happy to listen to you. Ladies and gentlemen, P.L.O is an important Kenyan. Could we give P.L.O a clap before we...
Thank you very much. Let me correct a few things in the introduction. My full names are Patrick Lodge Otieno Lumumba. Number 2, I am not an activist. Number 3, as a student leader, I never led any strike.
Indeed, I believe one of the very few student leaders who always believed in nonviolence and therefore never, ever led us wrong. So with those few corrections, first let me do what etiquette demands by acknowledging the Chancellor of Moi University, the Vice Chair of the Council, the Vice Chancellor of Moi University, and the Vice President of Indiana University, and all the academics here present. Ladies and gentlemen, you will have heard a lot of things said about the subject of reconciliation. What I have does not as yet qualify as a paper, but is titled From Corruption, Impunity, and Negative Ethnicity to National Reconciliation and Rediscovery. I'll make what is essentially, if you permit me, a very eclectic presentation touching here and there on this subject. My good friend Professor Seka has taken you certain historical aspects. He's philosophized, intellectualized, and moralized about the subject. I'll be much more on the ground, because the problems that we are talking about defy intellectualization. They defy philosophization. They defy moralization. They are real. This country, like many African countries that you know about, are suffering. As I speak to you today, in order to contextualize my presentation, the African continent is gripped in many problems, and the African state is under threat. You know what has been happening in Zimbabwe. We know what is happening in the run-up to the elections in Malawi. You know what has been happening in Angola. You know, as we speak now, there is conflict in Mogadishu. You know, as we speak now, there is clan rivalry and fighting in southern Sudan. You know, as we speak now, in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Kivu, there is a joint military operation of the DRC government and the UN. You know that there is a conflict between Chad and Sudan. You know that there is conflict in the Niger. You know that there is conflict in the Central African Republic. But before we talk about reconciliation, before we talk about rediscovery, let us do, from a fairly different perspective, what is the African problem? What is the problem of Africa? And if one permits me, what is the Kenyan problem? Writing in his little book, The Trouble with Nigeria, Chinua Achebe says of Nigeria, and permit me to say of Africa, that the problem with Nigeria is simply and squarely a problem of leadership. And I believe that that is the problem. And the reason why I believe that that is the problem is because when we compare ourselves with our Asian aid mates who may have had their own problems, and I'll mention a number of countries. Look at Singapore, the city-state of Singapore, and you read Lee Kuan Yew's book From Third World to the First World. What he did was very early on to pose the question, what does Singapore need? And with the delicacy and dedication of a sleepwalker, he moved the nation without resources worth speaking of in the right direction. Today, Singapore stands out, shines like a pink puddle outside of many Asian countries as a success story. If you look at Malaysia with Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, he may have had his excesses, but he very early on identified what the Malays needed and moved the country in the right direction. Julius Kambarage Nyerere in the early years, Modibo Keita in the early years, Jomo Kenyatta in the early years, Kamuzu Banda in the early years. And if you walked across Africa, you saw that the economies were growing at the rate of 7 to 8%. The indices were good, Our own country, Kenya, was touted as the Switzerland of Africa, with an economy and a currency to match. But no sooner had we left the cave of colonial politics than we took the wrong turn. And ethnicity was always the single thing that undermined our growth in the right direction, if I'm to focus on Kenya. Jomo Kenyatta, sooner rather than later, became a slave of an ethnic cabal, who soon realized that national resources were better privatized. And they privatized national wealth. Of course, the generalization is that the Kikuyus were eating, but that was never true. It was a small clique of the Kikuyu elite who were involved in ravishing the country. And you and me know what the Kenyatta regime then proceeded to do, the politics of exclusion and the primitive accumulation of material wealth.